The advent of the digital age has brought remarkable innovations, improving communication, commerce, and governance. However, it has also introduced unprecedented challenges to privacy and personal freedom. At the core of this transformation is surveillance capitalism, a system where corporations collect, analyze, and monetize user data to generate profits. Coined by Shoshana Zuboff, an American social psychologist, the term surveillance capitalism highlights the exploitation of behavioral data for economic gains. Companies like Google, Facebook, and Amazon operate as surveillance empires, using big data to predict and influence human behavior. Here in this video, we explore whether such practices undermine the very foundations of democracy by compromising privacy, agency, and freedom. Before we proceed, don't forget to subscribe to our channel, Sociopedia. Now let's first understand what surveillance capitalism is, and how does it function. Surveillance capitalism is an economic system based on extracting and monetizing personal data. Unlike industrial capitalism, which focused on controlling means of production, surveillance capitalism focuses on controlling information. Its key mechanisms include: Number 1. Data extraction and analysis. Companies gather vast amounts of user data through online interactions, social media, search engines, and smart devices. Number 2. Behavioral prediction. Algorithms analyze data patterns to predict consumer behavior, preferences, and decision-making tendencies. Number 3. Behavioral modification. Insights from predictions are used to push users toward desired actions, whether purchasing products or adopting specific viewpoints. Number 4. Monetization. The collected data is sold to advertisers and third parties, creating a market based on surveillance and control. The tech giants or corporations like Google, Meta, Amazon, and Apple are the architects of surveillance capitalism. Their business models depend on turning users into data mines and refining their predictive algorithms. Google tracks user behavior across its services from searches to location history. Meta collects data through interactions, preferences, and networks. Amazon uses purchase histories, browsing patterns, and smart devices to profile customers. Therefore, in the digital age, privacy has become a commodity rather than a right. Users trade personal information for convenience, often without fully understanding the terms. Studies show that most people do not read privacy policies, leaving them vulnerable to data exploitation. While regulations such as the General Data Protection Regulation in Europe and the California Consumer Privacy Act aim to protect user data, enforcement remains inconsistent. Loopholes allow companies to sidestep regulations, making meaningful privacy protection elusive. For examples, Facebook's involvement in the Cambridge Analytica scandal in 2013, wherein personal data of over 87 million Facebook users was collected without their consent by British consulting firm Cambridge Analytica, and later used for political advertising in 2016 in American elections. Equally, smart home devices like Amazon's Alexa and Google's Nest continuously collect data, often without explicit user consent. Indeed, the predictive algorithms employed by tech companies do not merely observe behavior, they shape it. Recommendation engines, targeted ads, and curated content subtly influence user choices, eroding autonomy. Social media platforms use dopamine-driven feedback loops such as shares, likes, and comments to keep users engaged. Online echo chambers reinforce biases, creating environments where users feel free but are finely directed towards specific ideologies. Therefore, inspired by Michel Foucault's concept of the panopticon, surveillance capitalism mirrors a system of digital panopticon, where individuals are constantly observed, fostering self-regulation and compliance. People alter their behavior, knowing they are watched, leading to a loss of spontaneity and freedom. China's social credit system is another example of digital surveillance's potential for totalitarian control. As a governance tool, China's social credit system sorts citizenship behaviors into trustworthy and untrustworthy categories as part of the regime's long-standing effort to cultivate a loyal citizenry. Now, what are the implications of surveillance capitalism? It is widely researched that continuous surveillance impacts mental health by inducing paranoia, anxiety, and a sense of vulnerability. Scholars argue that this psychological manipulation undermines the foundations of democracy, as freedom depends on citizens' ability to think and act independently. Data profiling facilitates micro-targeted political campaigns, influencing elections and eroding trust in democratic processes. Modern societies increasingly frame individuals as consumers rather than citizens. The commodification of personal data reduces people to economic units, prioritizing profit over public interest. The efforts to reclaim privacy include movements advocating for digital rights, encryption tools, and decentralized networks. Organizations like Electronic Frontier Foundation fight for policy reforms, highlighting the need for grassroots activism. To secure the future of privacy and freedom, policymakers must develop stricter frameworks to regulate data collection and ensure transparency. Global cooperation is essential to enforce standards and hold corporations accountable. Secondly, emerging technologies like blockchain offer decentralized alternatives to centralized data storage, empowering users to control their information. Thirdly, addressing algorithmic biases and ensuring fairness in artificial intelligence systems is critical to preventing exploitation. Tech companies must adopt ethical standards to balance innovation and privacy. Altogether, surveillance capitalism has blurred the boundaries between freedom and control, raising existential questions about privacy, agency, and democracy. While digital tools promise greater autonomy, they simultaneously tether users to systems of surveillance and manipulation. Freedom, in this context, becomes an illusion, a carefully curated perception sustained by algorithmic nudges and behavioral conditioning. Reclaiming genuine freedom requires collective resistance against data exploitation. Thanks for watching. Do subscribe to our channel, Sociopedia.